What's going on, everybody? I'm Terrence, and this is Bank Shipping. All right, good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning. I hope everybody had a good weekend. We are in Lewis, Delaware, at the Cape May Lewis Ferry, dropping off some pipe that we picked up on Friday. We got here probably about 15 minutes or so ago and got everything unstrapped, and we're just waiting for the crane behind us to pick these pipes off of us, and then we can get out of here. We had to wait a little bit because the ferry was coming in as I was backing into the spot. So the port police, or whatever they are, they don't like anything really going on while the ferry's loading and unloading. So we have to wait until the ferry takes off, gets done loading and takes off before we can get unloaded. So once we do that, I will try to get a video or a little portion of us getting unloaded by the crane, and then we'll get out of here. So I'll be back with y'all shortly. Good morning. We are here in Capitol Heights, Maryland, just waiting for some trucks to get out the way so that we can pick up our load. We got a load of some security barriers, like the ones that they put in between, guard shacks or parking booths, wherever there's a secure location. They're pretty small. They're like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide. And they're about 700, 800 pounds or whatever. We're getting 11 of them, and we're going to take those up to Jersey City, New Jersey. So we'll get to play right outside of New York City. So we'll let this truck get out the way, and then they got to figure out how they're going to get these things on my trailer, because they had no plan. Most of the time I come to this place, they don't have a plan for how they're going to load me. So we'll figure that out, and I'll get back with y'all. All right, guys, so we picked up our load in Capitol Heights, Maryland this morning. It was supposed to go to Jersey City, Jersey, straight through, drop off before 3 o'clock is what they said. So I got strapped down and everything, pulled out of the shipper, got on the interstate, and about 15 minutes into it, they called and said that the place that I was supposed to take them to had a worker there who tested positive for COVID. So since they tested positive for COVID, their COVID policy or whatever, states that they got to shut down for the day, clean, and get a new crew in there to unload trucks. So I can't unload until in the morning. So, of course, I told the broker, I need a layover fee, all that good stuff. And, I wasn't that far from the house. So instead of going up there today and staying the night, I'll just come back to the house where I am now, back in the yard, and leave out early in the morning and have it up there by 8 o'clock. Fine by me. So since I got an early day, I figured, I'd talk about a big question in the hotshot market, which is, should you get your CDL or not? So there's a lot of back and forth from people about whether or not you should have your CDL. I have my CDL, so I can't speak really from experience for non-CDL guys. But what I will say is I do have a non-CDL owner operator that does just fine without a CDL. So, you know, there is money to be made out there with non-CDL. Just all depends on where you're at and where you're willing to go. It's one of those things, just like everything else with the trucking industry. You know, it's all about how you are going to do things with your business that determines how much money you're going to make with it. You know, you don't necessarily have to have a CDL to make decent money. You know, I will say though, the only thing, you know, a CDL is a license. That's it. You know, you prove to the DMV that you can drive a bigger vehicle. That's all CDL is. You can pass a test and you can pass a pre-trip and you can drive in front of them and they give you your CDL. That's all it is. You know, some people say, you know, CDLs are professionals, you know, and they are and they aren't. You know, having a CDL might make you a professional driver. But to me, I think your ethics and things like that is what makes you a professional driver. Because there are guys out there that have a CDL that probably shouldn't drive a moped. There are guys out there that don't have a CDL that probably have no problem driving something bigger. You know, so don't get too caught up in the CDL thing. You know, yes, if you have a CDL, there are some benefits because you have more weight capacity. You know, you might not get stuck as much in some of these bad areas as far as freight goes, some of these dead zones. And sometimes if you have a CDL, you might still be stuck too. But at least with the CDL, you have a little more leeway on the weight. You know, and of course that all depends on your truck and trailer, you know, setup. Some guys are able to gross 10, 11,000 pounds on the deck, you know, some a little less. All depends on how heavy your setup is to stay under 26,000. So, you know, there are some benefits to both. You know, with the non-CDL aspect, you know, you don't run IFTA taxes. There's ways to skate around IFTA taxes and apportion plates and all that stuff. Some states make you have that stuff, some don't. It all depends on what states you are running out of to determine whether or not you're running IFTA and IRP and all that good stuff. But of course, when you have a CDL, you have to, you know, run IFTA, run IRP, be enrolled in your drug and alcohol consortium. Now be enrolled in the drug and alcohol clearinghouses. You know, depending on what your gross weight is, you might have to pay a heavy highway tax. So there's a lot of extra fees that come with having a CDL and being grossed over 26,000 pounds. So a lot of guys, they try to, you know, cut some corners and cut some costs by running non-CDL so they don't have to pay some of those fees. You know, me personally, my personal opinion is I think everybody should have a CDL who's in Hotshot. And the reason that I say that is because Hotshot to this volume is relatively new to the trucking industry. So there's not much that everybody knows about Hotshot and scale and weight and things like that when it comes to the federal government, who regulates the trucking industry. So as time goes on, you might start seeing the federal government lay down more regulations that target hotshots. You know, so I'm always, you know, the type of person that tells everybody to stay ahead of the curve, you know, stay one step ahead of the game. I said it in my last video. You know, you want to stay one step ahead. And, you know, there might be some things as time goes on that the federal government doesn't allow hotshots to do anymore that keeps them non-CDL. For instance, I know I've talked to a couple guys at different scale houses when I've been inspected and things like that. You know, there's not necessarily a push, but there is some talk going on with the higher ups about derating trailers. You know, so if you got a truck, you know, that's rated at 14,000 and you go buy a trailer that's got two 17 or 7,000 pound axles, which is a common non-CDL trailer, or even 8,000 pound axles, you know, that right there puts you over 26,000 gross, which means you need a CDL. But what a lot of people do is they derate that trailer to 12. So now 14 plus 12 is 26. You got a non-CDL setup. Well, the problem is, if anything ever comes about or comes of it, and they decide that they're not going to let manufacturers derate trailers anymore, then you're stuck. Now you have a 14,000 gross truck and a 14,000 gross trailer. You need a CDL. You know, as time goes on with the wars between pickup manufacturers, it's almost like the gross weight, max tow weights and stuff are only going up. You know, so as those go up also, you know, your trailer gross has to go down. So, you know, in order to be able to stay with the times, now I'm not saying that this is definitely going to happen. Of course, it's just one of those things that are in talks. Future, later on down the road, it might happen. So me personally, I tell everybody, you know, be prepared for that. You know, in most places, most states allow you to go take your CDL road test in a pickup truck and a trailer. So something that you're already comfortable with, you can go out and get your CDL with it. Now, of course, you'll have an air brake restriction, and you might have a no fifth wheel restriction, depending on your trailer, but it's something worth looking at. And just because you have a CDL doesn't mean that you got to haul big weight. You know, I have a CDL, and I'll be honest with you, I try to stay under 10,000 pounds on the deck at all times. Now, that doesn't always happen, but a majority of the times, I'm less than 10,000 pounds on the deck. So, you know, my setup's a little over 17,000 empty, full of fuel, and with me sitting in it. So, you know, if I put something less than 10,000 pounds on the deck, I'm under 26,000. So even though I have a CDL, I'm running under CDL weight. So don't get too caught up in the, well, I got a CDL, I got to put 16, 18,000 pounds on the deck. You know, you're just going to run your equipment into the ground when you do that all the time. So I try to stay as light as possible, even though I have a CDL. So don't get too caught up in the CDL versus non-CDL. You know, it's one of those things. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you want to do it, do it. Just make sure that whatever your decision is on whether you get a CDL or not, make sure that that's going to work for your business. You don't want to say, okay, I'm not going to get my CDL, go into it as a non-CDL hotshot, and then figure out, well, I don't have no freight that I can haul because I can't scale the weight. Then you got to go back and do it all over again. You know, get your CDL, might have to re-register your truck, re-register your trailer, or get a new trailer so you can scale that weight. You know, so just make sure whatever you decide that you know that you can make that work where you are. But don't get too caught up in the CDL versus non-CDL. Some people say, oh, when you don't have a CDL, you're not a real driver. Don't get into all that. You know, a driver, to me, doesn't matter whether you have a CDL or not. It's about how professional you are, honesty, integrity, you know, being humble, and you know, living life on the road, or being a local guy. You know, that's what makes you a driver, not what's in your wallet, whether you got a CDL or not. So, you know, don't get too caught up in the semantics of CDL versus non-CDL. It's nice to have. Like I said, you can get out of some tough spots by being able to scale a little more weight. But if you have a good setup and you're finding plenty of freight under CDL weight, you might want to stick with non-CDL. But just remember, as time goes on, things might start to change in the hotshot world. So be prepared for those things to possibly happen, and make yourself a plan on what you're going to do if that happens and you're still in this business, or you're trying to get into this business. So just wanted to leave you guys with that. I'm going to head to the house. Well, actually, I'm going to go work on the pizza more. Eventually, once I get a couple more things done, I'll get a video of that for you guys. I know a couple guys have been waiting and asking about it. So once I get a couple more things done, I'll do a little video on that so you guys can see some of the next steps that I'm taking. So other than that, Hope you guys have a great day. Stay prayed up, grind hard, and stay humble.